Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on Project Procurement Excellence. I'm Sandesh Paturi, your host and also the co-founder of Venvis. It's a pleasure to have all of you here today. And we are going to dive into a topic that's really critical for every project and procurement leader, which is optimizing cost, quality, and the timelines in a project, right? Especially in today's fast-paced and cost-conscious environment. Now, to set the context for this webinar, I'm going to quote a 2022 McKinsey study. It's a consultancy. They have studied over 500 capital projects, right? Greenfield or brownfield projects, and worldwide. And the findings of that study were really striking. They say that almost 79% of these projects experienced cost overruns, and more than 50% of these projects faced project time delays, right, when compared to their planned timelines. So if you look at the slide on the screen, there are the three angles to a project, right, that we just described. That is cost, quality, and the timeline. Now, in a project, this has been the trend over the past few years and maybe decades as well. Optimizing project procurement has become more and more challenging, right? That is because of rising costs, very tight timelines of project execution, as well as increasing demand for the quality of the project. Now, balancing these three elements, the cost, quality, and timelines, is key to delivering successful projects, right? Now, when I was a project manager, from my experience, it's always about balancing these three aspects of a project, right? Now, there's a constant tussle within the project team on, can we have all these three things together? And hence the intersection of all these circles, right? Is it really impossible to achieve all three of them in a project, right? So in order to delve deeper into this question and also into the topic, we have eminent panelists here joining us today for the webinar. I'm really pleased to introduce Ankit Agarwal, who is the Senior General Manager at Dalmia Bharat Limited. It's one of the leading cement companies. And I also have my colleague and good friend, Rakesh Mondal. He heads vendor management at Venvis. So let's welcome them today. Thank you very much, Ankit and Rakesh, for your time and joining the webinar. To start off, maybe Ankit and Rakesh, both of you can introduce yourself to the panels and also share a little bit about what you are most excited about to discuss today, right? I know that it's the first webinar for all three of us, so I'm really excited to see what comes out of this discussion. Ankit, maybe you can go first.
Thank you, Sandesh. Everyone, my name is Ankit Agarwal. I'm Senior General Manager, Projects and Growth and Expansion Fellow for Dalmia Cement Limited, which is a part of Dalmia Bharat as such. I am responsible for most of the projects running across India, be it a greenfield, brownfield, merger acquisition, or any kind of expansion possibility which can come into the future. Plus, I'm also looking for the strategy function of Dalmia Bharat to achieve its target for the 2030, what we have shared. I do have around 18 years of experience as a project manager and all in all into the project things. So right from the conceptualization up to the execution, I have executed. And today I'm very much excited about sharing the perspective of a project manager as such, how we can try to achieve that impossible portion of the Venn diagram what Sandesh has shown earlier. That's about me.
Thank you, Ankit, and welcome once again to the webinar. Rakesh, maybe you can go next.
Thanks, Sandesh. Thanks, Ankit. Hello, everyone. I'm Rakesh. I work at the vendor management site at Venvis. And before that, I started my career with Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited, a major power sector PSU. And for over a decade, I worked across the entire gamut of project management lifecycle, starting from proposal to procurement to engineering to project management and construction for some of the major utility and oil and gas companies in India. During that phase in my career, and while I was working at multiple segments in the project management cycle, I faced a lot of inefficiencies, right? And that was one of my biggest motivation to join Venways and start build this platform where we can make, at least try to make the lives of the project and procurement managers a bit easier by removing those inefficiencies from their life. And today, yeah, I'm also excited to discuss about the holy trinity of projects, quality, cost, and timeline, and how each of them impact the others, and how a project manager should take a very like holistic view on managing those three aspects together. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Rakesh, for that introduction. And now that we have met our panelists, right, let's jump into this discussion. And as I said, I'm very excited to know what the outcome will be, right? So let me kickstart by asking you, Ankit. You have been involved in several large-scale greenfield projects, right? And usually a project spans multiple stages. And among those stages, I think there are 5 or 6 stages we'll have that quickly on the screen. Right from initiation until closure of the project, right? So from your experience, which stage do you find it most challenging? So that's the first part of the question. Why, which stage is it challenging and why? And the second part is, how do you manage procurement more effectively, right? Especially within these constraints of time, cost, and quality, right? Maybe you can share your perspective and experience.
Sandesh, for this question. As for me, initiating and planning is the most difficult and the most important part of any project phase. If we have the good initiation or the good planning from the start, we will be having a hold on the project cost, quality, timeline, all three trinities as such. Generally, one of the cement project, the budget is around 3,500 to 4,000 crores, and which spans for around 15 to 18 months. So each and every single day delay counts for around 5 crores of the loss to the company. So when we initially plan our project, we have to see for the perspectives, what exactly do we want, when do we want it, and in how much cost do we want it. The next step which comes is how we are going to achieve it. So the second part of your question was how we go for the procurement, and also procurement strategy also becomes a part of the initial planning itself. How do you want to go for the procurement? We do have several sections or the several departments into a project, say like the pyro section or the cement grinding section. How do you want to go for the procurement? Do we want to go for the system ordering at once? Do we want to go on to the component level ordering? How it is going to impact my procurement timelines, the technical discussions, the ordering as such, or the delivery timelines of the vendors, whether they are capable or not. How many vendors am I going to touch in that era? Say like for the system designing, I do have 2 or 3 vendors as such. But for the component level, each and every component can have 5 to 10 vendors. So we have to take a holistic view and the overall complete picture for the projects, that how we are going to drive this project. So that's why, according to me, initialization and the planning is the most critical component for the project life cycle.
Okay. Great. That's a great perspective, Ankit. I thought, multiple people might talk about execution aspect as well, because a lot of companies focus on execution and then the maximum focus is there, right? But I think you are right. If you're planning an initiation stage and your procurement stage is better, I think most of the issues that come up in the execution stage take care of themselves. Right. So thanks a lot, Ankit. Thanks for sharing that perspective. Now, we can hear from our audience as well in this webinar. We have a small poll that we can conduct for the audience. The poll must be coming up on your screen now. Yeah. So which stage of the project life cycle do you find most challenging for procurement, right? So each of the participants can select an option based on their experience and insights. Will be interesting to look at this. Oh, wow. So that's interesting. About 58% of our participants, right, they have voted for vendor sourcing and procurement as the biggest challenge. Next comes in initiation and planning, and then overall monitoring and control, right? So I think, yeah, different perspectives. It depends on the industry, it depends on the the company that's executing the project. But this is really interesting to know. So thanks a lot for all the participants on your poll. Yeah. Now, let me jump back to you, Rakesh. So with your extensive experience, right, especially in managing projects in a PSU like BHEL, and also now leading vendor management at Venvis, you have had a front row exposure to how the cost, quality, and timelines play out in procurement decisions, right, across different clients that Venvis has been working with. So, from your point of view, how are these three elements interconnected, and if so, how do they influence one another, right? Of course, this is during a project, so maybe if you can share your insights, also how you're based on your interactions with other clients and so on.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Sandesh. So earlier you talked about balancing the cost, quality, and timeline. And I think Ankita also spoke a very valid point on the planning part, right? So I believe that quality plays a major role into success of the project. And when I talk about quality, it's not just about the quality of execution. It's about quality of planning, quality of process, the way a company is selecting their service partners. So I don't call vendors or vendors. They're like the service partners for a vendor or a vendor partner, right? They will actually be executing the projects at site. They will bring their manpower, tools, resources. So if a company or a project manager is being very diligent to managing and ensuring that the quality of the process, planning, vendor selection is true at the start of the project, half of his life's problem is like covered, right? And as I worked in all the segments of project management, I worked in execution also at construction sites. I also worked in planning as well as project management. So it became very like evident to me. And I can talk about the event where I was the construction manager. So due to some timeline issue or like some process fastening, we selected a vendor, civil vendor, who was not very experienced in that domain, right? He could not start the project and at time, and after too much haggle, like to and fro discussion, we had to cancel his contract. What happened at the end? He went into litigation. So we lost on time, we lost on quality, we lost on cost also. Had the company been very diligent to select the right vendors, and if we had even made a bit delay in say 7 days, 15 days in selecting the right vendors, the other subsequent issues could have been avoided. So that is my take. And yeah.
Great. Great. Thanks, Rakesh. I think that's a good example where a lot of projects face this, right? At least some part of the project where your vendor selection goes wrong, it really suffers over there, right? And Ankit, maybe your perspective on how these three aspects play out, right? And do you really need to balance, or can you pick one of them and say that my priority is this in a project?
I find quality is a non-negotiable component of a project.
Right.
We have to decide what is the minimum do we want. And yes, of course, there is always a pick between what is a wish list and what is the real requirement.
Right.
I can wish for an iPhone, but my requirement is a simple cellular phone that I have to understand. So now my budget can vary from the 10,000 rupees to 1,50,000 rupees. As far as the timeline and the cost is concerned, we should not think of it as a independent perspective that if my timeline is decreasing, my cost will be increasing or such that. Because when we see the project from the management perspective, increasing the timeline sometimes also cost me a lot. Like Rajesh said that when the vendor or the vendor partner went into the litigation, they lost on the quality, cost, and the timeline, all three aspects of it. So if we would have done the proper selection of the vendor partner or the contractor partner, we could have saved on all these threes at the first time itself. That's why in my first question, when I said we have to plan properly how we are going to manage our vendors, vendor partners, or the service partners, whether it is a technical consultant or the management consultant, project management, or anything, we have to very much sure that we should not always go for the L1. That's my philosophy. Okay, it has to be balanced between all three of them.
Right. Yeah, I agree, Ankit. And yeah, a lot of companies think in terms of quality, right? But you also find out there that a lot of pressure on cost and L1 vendors and so on. So I think we have to be proactive in also communicating to the vendors that it's not just L1, but it's the quality also that plays into the selection factors, right? So great. That's a great thing. Thanks a lot, Ankit. And again, as per our format, right? We are going to go into a poll again, where I think the poll should be coming in. Yeah. So this is for the audience. From your experience, right? Which element has the most significant impact on procurement outcomes? Is it cost, quality, timelines, and all three equally, right? Not just procurement, it's also for the overall project, right? How do you see this? So, okay, so the outcome of the poll is that almost 66% of the participants have chosen all three equally. What they mean is all three are creating a significant impact on the project outcomes, right? So I think that's a perspective that a lot of project and procurement managers hold, and it's really important that we deliver on all three, right? Timelines being a little bit more, it's 17%, and cost and quality around 10% each, right? So yeah, I mean, priorities within these three elements as well, but yeah, overall all three are equal. So thanks a lot, participants. I think that gives a good perspective. It's very individualistic, right? It depends on the company, it depends on the project, on how to manage the priorities. Good. So Rakesh, quickly coming back to you and closing on our earlier conversation, right? Company, right? When they have to do projects, is there any difference? Any thoughts on that?
Okay. So Sandesh, like BHL is a EPC company primarily, right? Their bread and butter is installing and commissioning those power plants and get it done on time, right? So,
Right.
and there is a heavy penalty assigned to delays and quality and all those aspects. So timeliness is obviously major factor, right? Along with that, the company also need to balance the cost, because whatever margin they are leaving on the plate is their profit margin, right? So balancing quality, cost, and timeline is a major factor for the company in any case. But I'll talk about a case where I deliberately ignored few of them. And why so? So it was a project where we had only 30 to 35 days left, and the entire balance electrical system commissioning was pending, right? So Ankit will know that if everything is ready, still your electrical system and control system is not ready, you cannot do anything, right? And the quality for electrical system is inherent. You cannot like wrongly install a panel and then commission it. So for me, the task was that quality is inherent, right? Time is fixed. If we delay, then we'll get a heavy penalty on the overall volume of the job. as well as the client is going to lose on the generation part of it. So that we are running against the clock, and then I looked at it, and then we increase the resources, right? Without not looking at the immediate cost of engaging more manpower, working double shift, paying them double over shift margins and all those things. And that way, within like 32 days, we are able to commission the entire LV system and get the plant starting, right? So that was a conscious call at that point of time. So while as a company, during the entire tenure of the project, we have to balance all those three aspects. But depending upon the situation, the project manager need to think on his foot and find out what is the particularly important factor at that specific point of time and take a call during that time, right? So this was one case, and there had been other cases also where we may have looked at the quality part of it, what is the best that we can do, right? Sometimes we have looked at the cost part of it and balancing those three aspects. So the overall project is done within the cost, within the timeline, within the quality, but time to time it varies.
Okay, great. So my follow-up question would be, imagine you were in a private organization, right? A large organization doing the same project. Would your approach or decision at that point in time be any different? Does a company, being a PSU or a private organization, influence such decisions?
So if I put my shoes into Ankit's position, right? Say I'm commissioning or constructing a cement factory. Even if a day of delay will cost me crores and crores of rupees in generation, I'll not be able to introduce the new product, or I'll not be able to get the market share. So at that point of, if I'm saying that by spending a bit more right now, I can save a lot on later days, I'll take a call on engaging more resources, bearing that cost at that point of time, and get the things done on time. But yeah, quality is going to be non-negotiable, because managing or ignoring quality today will make me suffer tomorrow. So it cannot happen anyway. That is non-negotiable, as Ankit also explained very well.
Right. Great. Thanks, Rakesh. I think that things are becoming a little clearer now, right? On which element of these three we have to prioritize. Good. Thank you. And now, Ankit, coming back to you, we saw that time, cost, and quality framework, right? Now, using that as a lens and as a base, it will really help us and the audience, if you can take one practical example from your career or from your experience, either in Dalmia or previous organizations, and explain how you have viewed the project through those lens, right? Any examples?
Okay, so I would like to give an examples of 2022. So we were in the need of the packers. That's the system which packs the cement into the bag and load it onto a truck. So packer and loader system, we required around 12 numbers for our projects. We took a quotation, made some technical specification, took the quotation from the major OEM partners. We got some numbers in the tune of like 250 crores or something for those 12 odd packers. At the same time, we thought that how we are going to further optimize this system. Because somewhere on the back of my mind, I was very much convinced that this system is not going to cost me 250 crores as such. We went around our operational plants, we collected the requirement, because there are always a requirement from the operational plants for the upgradations or to installation of the new system. So we went ahead over there, we found out, are they in the process of ordering those packers or kind of upgradation? So I was presented with a list of 6 packers in addition to my 12 packers for the project. That made the system for the 18 packers. Now my next task was to standardize everything, because everyone was having a different wish list. That's the biggest concern in the private organization, that the wish list is very long, and you have to be very much firm while differentiating between the wish list and the requirement as such, because that makes a project very much costly. You go on, keep on going for giving away the wish list things to the people. We went for the standardization, and it not only reduces the overall cost of my procurement. Now, earlier, we were having the quotation for 12 packers as 250 crores. Now, for the 18 packers, I could manage to procure them in 120 crores.
Wow, that's a big difference.
That's a big difference. I increased my quantum by 1.5, and decreased my cost by half. That's only possible because of the standardization. Because this standardization not only helped me into my procurement cost, but also my OEM partners' cost in their, overheads. For each and every unique design, they needed to invest on the research and different engineering, different staff fees, different manufacturing capabilities. With the standardization, they could manage the cut, copy, paste kind of a thing. That's why their cost also decreased, my cost also decreased, plus my delivery timelines for those vehicles also got reduced by 2 months. So that was one of the biggest example we had in this industry till now.
Great. Wow, that's really good to know, Ankit. And yeah, I mean, a lot of maybe our participants also will have a lot of examples from their experiences, right? So good to know that. Good. So now getting a little philosophical, Ankit and Rakesh, I just wanted to ask you on if you were starting afresh, right, a career in project management or starting a new project, what would your sort of recommendations or advice be for either new ones or your younger self as well, right? Based on what you have learned in this last 17 years of experience, Ankit, for you, what advice would you give to your younger self on how to manage a project, what to prioritize, what are the key important things that you will focus on?
Okay, so for the young managers, I would like to say that when you join the industry as a manager, you are very much derived with the excellence. You want best of the best of the best. And to achieve the best of the best of the best, you sometimes get stuck to only one vendor partner or one technology, or you don't care about the cost at all. You just ignore it. So as you grow mature into the industry and when you reach to the higher management positions, it is very important to notice the big picture. You have to equalize all three aspects of the project: quality, cost, and the timeline at the same time, because disruption or the inequilibrium in any of these three is going to cost you much more into the future. Either your cost timeline will increase or your cost will increase. Quality is non-negotiable. We all agree on that. So you have to balance all three aspects of the life rather than focusing on only one aspect, that is the quality, or the wish list, or the best of the best of the best. You should be more versatile, or you should be more open to the new technologies, new ideas, new vendor partners, so that you can balance all these three aspects also. So big picture is the key, which I want to suggest to the young ones.
I agree with you, Ankit. In fact, when you say that, I recollect now, when I joined as a project manager, it was straight out of college. And my first boss, his advice also was this, right? Don't corner yourself and be in a box, but look at the big picture of what you're doing. Be it in your BU, be it in your project or anywhere, right? Always look at the big picture, and then accordingly take decisions. There will be a lot of hurdles, there will be a lot of pushback from the system, but if you think you're moving in the right direction of that big picture, always follow that, right? Don't give up. So great. I think I still remember that, Ankit, so thanks a lot for bringing those memories back. Good. So Rakesh, the same question to you, right? What would your advice be?
Okay. So when Ankit started, he talked about the importance of planning and initiation phase, right? And I completely agree to that. My advice to my younger self would be that plan all the details that you want, right? Do all the risk assessment, make your plan A, plan B, plan C, but still be open to any unforeseen condition that can happen, right? When we start, say, at least the longer projects, which can like a cement plant, which can run for say 2 years, right? Or a power plant, which can run for 18 months to 36 months. When we start, we cannot know everything about what is going to happen in future, right? And I'll talk about an example. So I was doing one ONGC project in Gujarat, and we planned everything to complete all the civil work before monsoon, right? All the underground work, so that no water logging can happen. All the civil work should be completed. Unfortunately, that year, the monsoon went for 3 to 4 months, which we had not like ever planned, or there is no historical data of that.
Okay.
And the location being in the coastal region of Gujarat, the soil was so bad that the entire project site became a like waterlogged marshland.
Mm.
And all our mechanical electrical work planning went into like into that mud, right? We are not able to move, no vehicle was moving, and at least for the mechanical part where a lot of welding or piping and everything is required, it was not even allowed to work in the water. So we
Right.
had to think on our toes, right? We had to make think about what we can do at this particular situation because the project was getting delayed. So as a like makeshift thing, there were some unfinished warehouses, right? The client was not storing anything there. We shifted all the pipe module fabrication work there. We completed part of the work so that when the situation was improved, we were not sitting idle. We had something to work on it, right? And we progressed a bit more. So had I not thought about those quick make shift situations or plans, then we could have stayed like idle for 3 months, 4 months, and the entire project could have gone like delayed, like till I don't know, like I could not predict that how much delay could have happened. So my advice to my younger self could be, or any project manager who is starting new in the industry, be very meticulous in your planning, right? Do all the risk assessment, but still mentally be prepared that anything can happen in future, and if you have to take action at that point of time.
Okay. Okay. Great. I think that's great advice coming from both of you, Ankit and Rakesh. So thanks a lot. Just one quick question I had for you, Ankit. I know we discussed this. There's if you look at the cement industry as such, right? A lot of capex investment has gone into it in the past few years, and that is still maybe continuing now, right? So given this capex that is going in, do you find a resource crunch in terms of qualified people, or how is that? Is it a lot of pressure on existing project managers? So how is the industry in terms of availability of project managers right now?
You touched a very important point over here. Right now, everybody in this cement industry, all the major players, be it Ultratech, PCC, Ambuja, now Adani, or Dalmia, or JK, they all are going for the expansions in a very big manner. And there is a very big crunch of the skilled manpower or the project managers who do understand the system into the practicality, who can understand the uh, interconnection between the cost, quality, and the timelines. Overall holistic view of the project, it is a very bad condition as far as the resources are concerned. It
Wow.
is very you know difficult for a project manager to keep a hold on his team or to reduce the attrition rate,
Right.
because everybody is in dire need of the resources right now. Uh, the offers are going crazy in the tune of 100% and all those things. And the same thing is happening with the vendor partners and the contractor partners as well. It's
Okay.
not only about the human resource. So everybody is overloaded, be it the vendor, because they are also having so many orders which they may or may not be fulfilling on the time because of the workload. All the contractor partners, they are very acute demand of the skilled, unskilled, or semi-skilled manpower, which is not getting fulfilled. So it becomes very tricky for us to explore the alternatives or the alternate vendor development, what we say in the industry. It becomes very important for us to look into that aspect. Right?
Okay. Okay. Great. Thanks, Ankit. And I want to share a small snippet that I have seen from my position as co-founder of Envis, right? Some of our clients whom we are servicing also are into heavy capex investments, and they talk about resource crunch. Not, as you said, not just manpower, not just project managers and so on, but also good vendors. Even if good vendors are available, do they have enough capacity to take up one more project of yours, right? And we are helping them identify such people, do the proper assessment to ensure that they are picking up the right vendor partners. We are still not helping them pick up the right project managers, but at least one part is what we are trying to solve. So yeah, I completely resonate with you, Ankit, on your point. So thanks a lot for that. Great. So coming back to the poll. This is one last poll that we have for this webinar. To all the audience, right? The poll should be coming up soon. So what is the biggest lesson you have learned about procurement that you wish you had known earlier, right? What would you talk about? That is insightful. So equal percentage of the audience, 37% around that, say that leveraging technology for efficiency and balancing cost, quality, and timelines, right? They find these two as the most important lessons that they have learned during their experience of being in projects. Apart from that, we also have some percentage talking about effective vendor relationships and also the importance of proactive planning, right? So this actually reinforces that there's a lot of things to learn and share, right? Especially with new people coming into the industry, coming into the project management function or procurement function and so on. So thank you, audience. Thanks a lot for that. And we are towards the end of the webinar almost. And if there are any Q&A questions, right, that you want to ask Ankit or Rakesh on anything, please send them through the chat and we'll direct them to our panelists.
Yeah, so we have a question here from Bhagyashri Russell. And
Okay.
the question is, if vendor cancelled order on the day of dispatch and plan B also not workable, then what is your suggestion here?
Yeah, maybe Ankit, if you can help out here, that'd be great.
Okay. So generally, this is a very remote possibility that the vendor cancels order on the D day, on the dispatch, because any vendor selection is based on a lot of factors like past performance, their capabilities, their work order load, and the margins into the system. Plus, after the ordering, there are certain stages like inspection, intermediate inspection, and all those things which ensures that your material is being ready at the vendor's end. But again, if the vendor canceled the order on the D day, first we have to ask him that if the material is ready, why you're canceling the order? Is there any kind of hitch into sending the orders or to dispatching the orders? Still, if he's not responding, then yes, we have to have always a list of vendors or the alternatives available to us. How we are going to, change this activity into the future activity, which does not impact on our overall timeline for the project as such, because this is very remote situation. But yes, we have to see that what alternatives we can do into our timeline or the project duration or the project planning, that it should not impact on our final execution.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a second question from Siddharth Kotari, and the question is, what are some good softwares, technology solutions to manage procurement?
Maybe Rakesh, you can take this. What have you seen with some of the clients that you have interacted with?
Okay. So in generally the project management, there are two major softwares that clients or any like either the consultant clients or the vendors use. One is your Primavera P6, another is MS Project. But these are on enterprise levels, right? There is a need of in market to have smaller solutions, mobile-friendly solutions, which can be used on the go. But I, in my experience, have not came across such kind of innovative products for efficient management of projects, right? That is on the project part. On the procurement part, so the process of procurement is pretty streamlined as on date across all the industries. And there are multiple platforms or softwares to handle the procurement part of a enterprises, starting from SAP, Ariba to other solutions. But there are smaller solutions also for smaller companies, which are more cost effective. So as yeah, there are a lot of options as on date, and these are some of the options that I could like think of right now.
Okay. Ankit, maybe from your experience, right? What have you found really working for you?
In terms of softwares?
Yeah, procurement softwares.
Okay, so we tried a couple of them, and we are still using one or two softwares. I'm not too much sure about the name of them, but they are mostly used for the reverse auctioning kind of a thing.
Okay.
We first specify the standard item onto our thing, close all the things technically what we exactly want, and then put it onto the reverse auctioning website so that the vendors are having a fair, a deal with them that how much from how much they are going to lose. Okay, and if somebody wants to have the final call on their part, so they can also do that. So those are the few softwares available in the market.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Ankit. Moving on.
We have a participant, Akanksha Chand. And so Akanksha, you are allowed to unmute yourself and you can maybe ask your question directly to the panelists.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
Akanksha, we can hear you.
Hi. Actually, I need to know at what stage need to find the vendor or fix the vendor to avoid the delay in projects, or how many vendors need to find for each part, so that I can match the timeline for that project.
Okay. Actually, that's a good question, Akanksha. Thanks for that. Rakesh, I would like both your views. So maybe Rakesh, you can start first.
Sure. So Akanksha, for the initiation of the procurement part, you have to back calculate, right? When your projects need to be commissioned or completed, right? Then what is the timeline or lead time for service part? What is the timeline for manufacturing part of that particular machine or component or something? And you have to add on what is the process time at your company, right? And then take a margin on that. And then for each of those packages, you have to plan when you have to start the procurement so that you can complete the PO or work order issue part on time. And the vendors or the manufacturers get sufficient and reasonable time to complete the manufacturing process or complete the service part. And here, the thing that becomes very important is to understand the interconnection between different activities. For example, until your civil work is not completed, you cannot start on the mechanical erection work. Until your pumps, motors, and everything are on place, you cannot start the cabling work. So as a project manager, understanding the nuances of how each package is interconnected with others, how much time each of them is going to need, and how much time your company needs to process each of those RFQs. And based on those calculation, deciding a procurement timeline or procurement strategy becomes paramount when you start the planning or initiation stage of the project.
Okay.
Yeah. On how many vendors you need. So it depends on the value of the package, right? The availability of that type of component in the market. For example, very simple things like pumps or say pipes or valves, you will get a lot of OEMs. But if something is very process oriented, like I believe something in Ankit's factories would be very like limited OEMs, right? There must be 3 or 4 OEMs for a core component. So it depends on how much is the availability of the vendors and how much time or effort you need to put into deciding each of those packages.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Akansha.
Thank you, Akanksha. So we have one more participant, Navajesh. So Navajesh, you are allowed to speak. You can unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Hello.
Yeah, Navajesh, we can hear you.
Actually, I have a query. If there is a delay in the project and supplier is continuously delaying their commitment and timelines, so can we divert the project to the any other reliable supplier, or what is the legal barriers to divert the order? मतलब
Got it. Navajesh. Ankit, if you can take that.
Yeah. So nowadays, generally in our commercial contract, we do have the liquidated damage term for the delay in the order execution or the delay in the supply part of it. Generally, it changes from 5% to 10%, depending on the complexity of the component we want at the site and the criticality. So if the vendor is continuously delaying onto the supply part of it, we can invoke the liquidated damage, which can value 5 to 10% for the bigger orders. As such, it goes into crores and crores of the rupees. So generally, the vendors are not too much inclined to delay the order from their end. At the same time, there are clauses like force measures and all, which you can invoke in the case of the extreme delays from the vendor side. Say, like the delivery timeline was 6 months from the date of ordering, and the vendor has not delivered the order up to the 8th month or the 7th month, depending on the terms of the contract. You can cancel that contract and divert that contract or the ordering to the other alternate vendors. But at the same time, you have to see whether the other vendor is having that component or the part available in their workshop for the dispatch or not. It should not happen that you diverted the order and then again it is taking 6 months from the date of ordering, because it is going to impact your timelines very, very harshly. Can you speak a little louder?
I got it. But one more thing I just want to ask. Yes, we will just check the timeline with the other supplier. Actually, supplier is continuously delaying the project. Okay, they are not meeting the first the order was freeze with the 6 month. Then they are asking for 1 month extension, 1 month extension, and after 2 or 3 after providing a 2 or 3 provisions, if we are not finding any marginal progress, and if we think that we can divert this order to the any other supplier, we will just bring the material from existing supplier and provide to the any other supplier who can give me the material maybe 2 month or 3 month. So we can divert it, but there is a one concern I just want to ask. Can we use the force majeure clause as a cancelling the order, like such type of case?
We can, but it should be our last option to be executed, because sometimes on the vendors end, it is also the condition that they cannot deliver the order. I'll give an example. We sourced one of the machineries from the Europe last year, but delivery timeline was around 8 months. But even after the 12th month, they were not able to supply the particular component. And they cited the condition in the Red Sea because of the Russia-Ukraine war. Okay, we do understand that, yes, there is something really serious going across the world. He is under serious constraints. That's why he is not allowed, he's not, able to deliver the order on the time. At that time, we also have to see the relationship between a vendor partner and us as well, because into the last poll we saw that it makes a very, very big difference. If we are having a good relation with our vendor, then yes, of course, it is going to support us into the overall project, in the future projects as well, and in the current project as well. So this call has to be taken on the case-to-case basis, on the requirement basis, and the urgency of it.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks, Navajesh, and thanks, Ankit,
Thank
for
you,
that.
Nagesh.
Yeah.
We have one more participant, Puneet. So, Puneet, you are allowed to talk. You can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes.
you are.
Of course. Can we curb the practices of someone insider favoring a vendor solution? How can this be systematically identified and curtailed? This
Puneet,
is
can
not
you?
really a technical question. It's mostly around the ethical practices.
Got it. Thanks, Puneet. Maybe Rakesh, if you can take this and share your insights. So the question is, Puneet has typed in the chat as well. Vendor collusion or favoring a vendor, right? How are these practices identified in an organization and how are they curbed, right? So maybe your insights.
So, Puneet, yeah, your concern and your question is very valid. And I believe the only solution is that bringing more digital technology and transparency in the process, right? If you take the example of our platform, Venways, we give the clients a very clear visibility on which vendor is relevant or master in what domain, right? What is their business, what they're doing. So that first part, selecting the vendors become very transparent based on what logic vendor A, vendor B, vendor C is selected. And there is a benchmark of it and everybody knows about the process, right? Second part comes on to the price part, right? And here comes the picture, like there are many tools as on date where you can do reverse auctioning to get the best price of it, or you can have a closed system where you are not able to favor a vendor on the price point of view. You are only negotiating on a digital platform where the vendors are able to see what is happening, why their or like offer is not getting selected, why their offer is getting rejected. And just by only including more transparency and digital technology in the process, you can actually identify or and curb the process, this collusion or vendor favoring events, right? There is no other way as on date, at least.
Puneet, could you hear that?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for answering.
Okay, great. Thanks, Puneet. Ankit, we have one last question for you from Raj Balaji. So the question is, what are the best practices that CapEx procurement managers undertake to manage and engage with vendors, right? That's because is there, first of all, a need to engage vendors continuously, considering that repeat requirements are very less, right? When you're doing a project, maybe you'll do it now, and a couple of years later, the technology might change, you might have a new vendor and so on. So is there a need to continuously engage with vendors, and how does that evolve over a project or over a couple of years between the company and the vendor? Any thoughts on that?
Yes, Nish, the communication between the vendors and the client is very, very important part, because we are living in the age of the digital transformations. Every single day, we are encountering the new technologies which are bringing the efficiency into the processes, which are bringing new possibilities. Right now, we are talking about going 100% AI-based cement plants, which are going to reduce all the inefficiencies into the systems, bring out the productivity more and more, such type of things. If I can read this question correctly, and if I'm understanding Raj correctly, so yes, at first we discussed and engaged with the vendors extensively in the initial part of the project, but once it becomes the repeat procurement, the interaction becomes less and less, because then we both knows each other's requirement, what we want. So we really need not to engage over the time for the repeat procurement, requirement. For the second part of his question, how we can increase his visibility for to be considered as a relevant or to be seen into the industry, you have to approach the clients from the any platform available. Either go to them directly, get engaged with them, meet the relevant people at the client's end, or to go to the major OEMs and be part of their panel as the sub vendor if you are having the small component of it. So, like I said, we go for the system procurement as well. Sometimes doesn't go for the component level procurement. So you can get engaged with them and then get your visibility to the client itself. Or yes, of course, the platforms like Venvis and all, you can get registered to get a better visibility, because sometimes like if I want to go for some kind of a portable housing requirement, I'll just go to the Venvis website and see the list of the vendors available to me, which I may or may not have seen earlier. I might be having the exposure of 2 or 3. You can get registered over there. So there are so many platforms you can use to increase your visibility.
Great. I hope that's clear, Raj. So thanks a lot. I don't think that we have any more questions. So thank you everyone for your questions, and also to Ankit and Rakesh for sharing their insights, right? It has been a great discussion, Ankit and Rakesh. So thank you once again very much for that. In order to summarize our discussion today, right, there are 3 key takeaways that I have had. The first one is, Ankit, what you have said. I think initiation and planning, you need a lot of focus there, right? Because if you set that thing straight, I think the rest of the project can be managed really easily. So that's one key takeaway. The second one is balancing on all these 3 parameters, right? The cost, quality, and timelines in order to avoid any sort of trade-off. So how do you do that? I think your examples and the insights you shared have been really good. And the third one is bringing in transparency and digitization into your processes, right? I think that's key for improving the overall transparency, reducing any sort of collusion or any sort of questions that also come in, right? So I think these 3 have been my biggest takeaways. So on that actually brings an end to our webinar, people. So on behalf of the entire team at Venvis, Ankit and Rakesh, thank you so much for your time. I know today is a working day and you all have really busy days. So thanks a lot once again for your time and insights. And I hope everyone leaves today with some sort of actionable things that they can take up and execute, right? So that's our endeavor. That's what we wish at Venvis. And thank you everyone for joining, and have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ankit.
Thanks, Sandesh.
Yeah.